my name is Judy and I'm the City Stitcher, and welcome to my Flosstube channel. Today is Sunday, October the 24th, and it has been sort of sunny earlier today and then it clouded over. So we're still filming in the sunroom, although it's not terribly sunny and not terribly warm, which reminds me, winter is coming. So I'm actually looking around the room and going, you might need to, there's always a few things that I winterize in this room, just because on like really cold days it gets really cold. And sorry, I'm just distracted because something's going on with the hair over here. I don't know that I can fix it. Yeah. Let's see if that helps. Anyway, yeah. Anyway. Few things that I should probably winterize in this room, which also of course leads me into on the not sunny days, where shall I be filming? So I'm revisiting that plan and all the things that go with it. So who knows where you're gonna see me next and what day that's going to occur. Anyway, stay tuned. And with that, this is a channel about cross stitching and the stitching that I've done in the recent week. If you are new to my channel, thank you for stopping by and spending some time with me. And if you're a returning viewer, I always want to say this every week. I truly, truly do appreciate all of you who tune in faithfully and watch regularly and comment, and it really is appreciated. So I hope you know that. And with that, let's talk a little bit about a couple of the comments that came in last week. A couple of them, as usual, we're going to address later. Yes, I have to go to my, note. So thank you to all of you who commented about the things that I told you about Jen. So it was interesting, like some of you said that you'd followed her on Instagram, but you didn't necessarily know that she had a Flosstube channel. Again, she has not been putting up regular videos for a while, which is totally fine. Hey, my answer is you get what you pay for. It's a free Flosstube channel. It's entirely at her discretion, how often and however she wants to film. Like I say, all I can say is I was thrilled to see her put up her Flosstube, because I have been dying waiting to hear her talk about her plans. And yes, again, for those of you who watched or who had seen or who had gone to watch, and yet the 222, I don't want to start 222 new projects in 1 year. That's not a goal for me, even in the 5-year plan. I don't think in the 5-year plan I get to 222 projects, which makes me think about my stash now that I've just said that out loud, going, Anywho, well, that's a whole other kettle of fish. But I don't want it to be her. I don't want to start that many projects, but I can't wait to watch. So whether she puts up videos or all she's doing on posting on Instagram, I just want her to post somewhere in social media land so that I, from a great distance, can watch and go, good for her. And again, she has not released a list of what the 222 projects are. Like one of the categories was, she's got a few categories where I go, those are not likely to appeal to me. And I say that now without knowing what the projects are. And I'm always like, yay for things that don't appeal to me, because we're going to talk about that later too. Anyway, but yeah, I can't wait to watch. I hope she does some videos, because again, part of the fun is actually just hearing her talk about it. Like, it's one thing she could have put up an Instagram post that had some details about it, and that would have been great too. I would have taken that. But it's so much more fun to watch her talk about it and her process and what she's thinking and how she got there and next steps and all that kind of stuff. So yay. And again, so if you didn't watch last week's video and you don't know what I'm talking about, I again will put a link to the video of Jen Lee talking about her plans for 2022, because it is extravagant and extraordinary. And I think I forgot to put the link to her Instagram account last week, so I will put that in this week. So you can follow her on Instagram as well. So what people do in social media land is entirely their own choices. So you know, whichever you choose to do, great. She like I say, she does have a Flosstube channel, but she has not been doing regular Flosstube videos, and she is on Instagram. Okay, Sarah is she only found my channel a couple of months ago, but thank you for finding me, and thank you for staying to watch. So she's catching up on the saga of the Never-Ending Nativity. Sarah, don't feel like you have to go back and watch it all, because there's just a lot of moaning and whining and complaining. just skip to the end where you get to see the good stuff. Anyway, and Debbie made a comment last week which was a little bit frightening. She said she was away on the weekend and she saw my video come up, but she refused to watch it until she got home because she wanted to watch it on the big TV. I'm not sure that I'm not trying best on the big screen, but in case anybody's wondering, just tell me that you watch me on your phone, because that'll make me feel better. I feel like I do better on the small screen. Anyway, with that, let's get into some of my stitching. Some of it you're going to laugh at. Some of it will be a topic for discussion. So let's talk about our infamous Never-Ending Nativity. Never-Ending Nativity. This is not the Never-Ending. This bears no resemblance to the Never-Ending Nativity. This is my temperature tree by the Stitchin' Mommy from Etsy. It's a digital download chart. And here is my progress. Yep, you're going to laugh. It looks exactly the same as last week. Still nothing. Still short a cocoa bean, so I can't make my decision, so I can continue on with this piece. Again, stuff happens, right? That's just how life goes. And it's totally fine. But it's not to say that I didn't get anything accomplished on this piece this week. So last week, 2 weeks ago, a few weeks ago, whenever it was, the lovely Rachel Q, who also has a Flosstube channel, came on and commented and said, remember, she said, Judy, there's a Facebook group, go into the Facebook group, because there's examples of what people have done, because we've been talking about putting a scale on so that 10 years from now that I will actually have some semblance of remembrance as to what these colors mean. And so that's what I did this week. I went and I spent a lot of time in the Facebook group looking at everything that everybody's done and what they're, all the different versions. And I really enjoyed going in and seeing a few of the temperature trees that were posted by people who live in the southern hemisphere. Because of course their trees look very different because they start with the warm colors on the lower branches and work up to the cooler colors if they're doing it on a calendar basis. Again, just want to comment again, it's a tree. You can, the first leaf on your tree can be any day of the year that you want. So do with that what you will, because we all know that my second tree that I'm planning on stitching in a bit is going to be my birth year, which is going to start with the day of my birth and end with my birthday of my first birthday. That's not coming anytime anyway, because I don't even have enough cocoa bean to do this one, let alone to do the second one. But that's a different thing. Anyway, so I did spend some time in there. So clearly I'm not the first person to think about putting your colors and what they represent onto this. And I'm clearly, now that I've been in the Facebook group, not the first person to contemplate doing them as leaves. So I've looked at the pictures, I've downloaded a few. I don't think either one of them are exactly what I'm thinking, but there are a couple that are close. And including one of the ones that I saw, it's like, you know, you should just put a couple of dangling, like they're falling off the tree. They won't represent anything. They'll just be falling off the tree, which I think that would be lovely too. Looked at all the variations of where people have put the year and the location and all sorts of things. So it was quality time on Facebook, looking at all the things that are going on and what people have done and like the variety again. So when you buy the chart, it comes with a set of 20 DMCs that they use, 4 different versions, 4 different ranges of what those same DMC colors mean. But as usual, like me, I did not stick with those colors. I changed them because I made them my own, which is great. And again, the number of versions in there of what people have changed them into, fascinating. Love seeing, love seeing that stuff. Love seeing what people do. You know, all of that is great. I love seeing all of that stuff. And I will tell you, there was someone, so the current year one that the Stitch and Mommy is working on is called Temperature Typography. And so it's the words, etc. And you fill in the words and etc. And I look at it and I go, it's interesting. But I've always looked at it and said, like, I can't see what I would do with that at the end. I can't see me really framing it. It's a little too big for a cushion. I couldn't figure out what I would do with it at the end. So I went into the Facebook group, like I said, and I spent some time in there. There's a woman in there who has done something with temperature typography that I went, oh, that I could see. So it's got me totally thinking about it. And I'm gonna have to do some thinking about it. But she's full kudos. I don't even remember her name, but full kudos to her because she certainly has me thinking about some options for temperature typography and what that could look like. And we all know how much I like when I see what other people do and go like, ooh. That contributes to other things later on in the show. So that's my temperature tree update. So no technical stitching on it. Waiting for the cocoa bean. Lots of ideas for what I'm going to do about, because I am going to put the year on, I am going to put the location, and I'm pretty sure I'm now in the camp of the range is going in. It's going to be some variation of leaves. Check back later to see what that looks like. Okay. Number 2. Cottage Garden Samplings, Halloween Sampler. So here's where I've gotten to. So again, never as much as I want to get accomplished. So I really need to start making a bit of a better push on this. So the moon is still in here. I have not solved my problem. I have not come up with what the right thing is to do for the moon. So if anybody out there has a brilliant idea of what to do for the moon that makes it more yellow and a little bit sparkly, not Kreinik level sparkly, not Petite Rainbow Gallery Petite Treasure braids sparkly. But if somebody's got an idea for that, I'll just hold it up a little bit closer where, again, I don't think the color translates correctly on. It's not bad here, but it looks more orange in real life. And again, whatever I use for this is going to be used for, where are they? Oh, I was going to say stars, but it's really only a star. Anyway, so it's not going to be uber gigantic, and I think I had one friend saying like quit fussing around and just pick a DMC and go. I also had another friend who said, well, you don't really have to make the final decision until you get to the bottom of the chart, right? So anyway, I thought the scope of opinions was pretty funny. Like, just hurry up and just decide and be done with it, and like, you don't have to decide until the very end. So did finish up this row, got a few more of my Etoile letters in, not like all 4 of them should have been in, but that's a different kettle of fish, and only a few of the regular DMC ones. So there's a lot left to go. I only have 7 days left. but I can stitch all the way up until midnight on October 31st on this. I don't know that I'm going to get it finished. I also did put in the black Etoile to fill in the eyes and the mouth for the ghost. Still haven't made a decision on my Ravensea. I'm really good about putting off the decisions. So my chart is complete. I've done everything up to there. That, well, not complete, because of course the dumb moon is in there, but I want to take it out and do it with something else. Okay, so it's not complete. Anyway, the other interesting thing about this chart, just to give you a little, if anybody has it or they're thinking about working on it, a little bit of a heads up about, so it comes on, the chart comes out, it's, you know, like this times 4, but double-sided, right? So clearly there's an area on the pattern that is overlap from the previous page, so when you flip over to the other page that you can properly align your stitching. Just to let you know, in my head I was thinking it was 3, and of course I make a working copy, so I did a photocopy, but they use very light shading, so when I looked at my second page I went, I can't, I don't know what's going on, so I had to hollow the original, figure out what's going on. They've actually given you 5 squares of overlap, so more than you're expecting. But it did make me sit there and go like, man, if I could just finish that next row, like I'm fully on the back page, which is really only half a page. Now I've also done the thing where I go, there's 8 rows here, and in my head I was going, you've got 5 of them done. Do I have 5? Maybe I do have 5. I was going to say 3, 4, 5. Yes, I do have 5 done. Okay, I think I was thinking I had 6. So I have 5 done. We'll see how long it takes to get to the bottom. Now, again, I've still got elements left to go. I've got, oh, yes, let's talk about, here's the part where you get to vote again. Because at the bottom, I've still got like the pumpkin and the shoe and the cat and the cauldron and, you know, the hat, so there's more to come. But up here is this broom. So I have successfully put in the broom handle. I put in the broom handle and then I stopped. So I have all the colors here. I should take them out of the bags because it will make this discussion a little bit easier. I thought it was a momentous achievement that I actually remembered to have them all here. There's a few things to throw into this discussion. I know it takes a little bit longer than you think because I'm only pulling out the skeins and not the parts that I've cut off of certain things. Okay. Okay, so for the broom, the called for fiber is Gentle Arts Autumn Leaves, which is this. And I understand that choice because they're thinking straw, all that kind of stuff, and it's variegated and all sorts of things, right? So that's what's called for, gassed autumn leaves. But there's a part of me that wants to make the broomstick look, you know, like it's a fiery broomstick, you know, fire shooting out of the end. So one of the other colors that's used in this chart is Gentle Arts Fragrant Cloves, which is more orangey. So that's option 2. I was like, there's one more ready to go. Another color that is used in this chart, so clearly in the elements that are yet to come, is Gentle Arts Orange Marmalade, which is even more orange. looks like that. The broomstick is gray, by the way, in case anybody was wondering. It's Gentle Arts Soot. And then, of course, we can go back to the infamous this color, DMC Etoile 972, which has some sparkle in it. Or, I told you I had Etoile in 725 because I also tried that and didn't like it. See, and when I hold this up, I go, that's too light. So I'm going to take this off and say there's 4 options here for the end of the broomstick. Etoile in 725, Gentle Arts Orange Marmalade, Gentle Arts Fragrant Cloves, or the called for Gentle Arts Autumn Leaves. Thoughts, opinions, comments, always welcome in the comment section down below. Okay, those need to go specific because they need to go back into their bags or there's going to be chaos in the land. I will say, thank heavens I put up several tables around me while I'm doing this stuff. Okay. And so last week I was talking about, you know, given that I wasn't enjoying not having 2 projects to work on, that I should maybe, while I'm waiting for the infamous cocoa bean to arrive, start another project. And I didn't. Because I got distracted by the cause of the topic for this week. So you'll hear more about that when we get a little further into the video. So I haven't started anything new. Okay. With that, let's talk about Stashquisitions. So you'll be unhappy, some of you will be unhappy to note that I don't have anything to show this week. I am totally expecting that there's going to be a bit of a hefty chunk next week. I've got things to pick up at my LNS that I have not yet done, so that could be coming. The other part, so not so much for next week. I will say I have been watching Flosstube this week, and it has been a bit of a problem. Now, the problem is when you watch Flosstube and you see what people are working on and they do things that you enjoy, or that they work on something like, so I was watching Jean and Carolyn from the attic. Their Flosstube channel is called 2 Tarts and Their Starts. And sometimes it's called 2 Tarts and Their Charts. And sometimes it's called 2 Tarts and Their Charts and Their Starts, and any combination of those things. So I was catching up with Jean and Carolyn. I talk like I know them personally. They can't pick me out of a lineup. They've never met me. But I was catching up with Jean and Carolyn. They were showing all sorts of things. They showed a chart. So they showed a chart on there where I went, how have I not paid attention to this chart? Now, again, part of it could be that when people stitch them in real life, they look differently than what's shown on the front covers of the charts. It could be that Jean and Carolyn are infamous for changing it from cotton fibers to silks. I don't know. But she showed a chart. I'm like, okay, that's going to have to get added to the collection. So I'm going to be placing an order this week with my LNS for... So there's one coming from Jean and Carolyn. There's one coming from somebody that I saw on Instagram. And there's a third one coming because I watched Kathy Haberman's video. Now, it actually is... I watched Kathy Haberman's video. She sent me over to her webpage. I spent some time on the webpage, and that's causing me to place an order for something. So not talked about in the video whatsoever, but it's going to cause an order to go in. Anyway, so not too much on that one. Or at least not this week. Nothing to show this week. There should be things to show next week. Okay, let's talk about free charts. So I'm glad that some of the free charts that I showed last week were new to some of you. You know my thing about get them while they're available and free. So and again, as I said, the ones for October, I'm reviewing them every single week, just because certainly the first one and the second one are ones that are time limited. You only have until October 31st to download these particular charts for free. So we're going to start off with the infamous Stone Street Stitchworks. These pieces of paper live in this room. Stone Street Stitchworks, Francis Sweetlove 1827. Again, quoting Mama Loves You GB. Download it now, even if you have no intentions of ever stitching it, because one of these days you're going to need one of these alphabets. Okay, the second one is from Pine Needles. Again, I still haven't updated my picture, which is totally fine. I've been faithful about downloading the squares. So there are 31 charts to download from the Pine Needles website. And again, the link to where you can find these will be in the notes below. October 1st was the squares, and then every day past that is one of these little tiny squares. Again, I can't stitch it until I see what the entire thing looks like, so I can decide whether I need to make any changes. But again, you have until October 31st to download them all. So the last one comes out the morning of October 31st. You have that one day to download it. Now, this chart, both of these charts, again, it's not that you won't be able to get them after October 31st, 2021. But if you are looking for it after that particular date, these will be available, but they will be charts that you need to pay for. Okay, Twin Peak Primitives. This is on their webpage, and Joanne, I have to say I was a little surprised that you hadn't visited the Twin Peak Primitives website, but that's okay. I'm glad that you got to pick, you know, was it Twin Peaks that you got? No, I think it's the next one. I'm totally lying. Sorry, Joanne, that's not that one. Twin Peak Primitives, that's their Halloween freebie. It was this one, Owl Forest Embroidery, that Joanne went and visited and found another chart that she liked in their freebie section. And again, I'm 100% confident that the link that I provide you in the notes below is not directly to this one. It is to their freebie page, so feel free to have a look around and see if there's anything else there that you like. There are certainly several others from Owl Forest Embroidery that I have downloaded. And this is their most recent addition to their free chart section. And then the one that I'm going to add for this week probably won't be new to a lot of you if you watch Flosstube, but I hate to say that because there's a lot of Flosstubers out there. There's a lot to watch. I'm behind on, I feel like the count that I'm behind on is ever growing. So this is a free chart from Fat Quarter Shop. Again, the link to it will be in the notes below, so don't worry that you're going to have to like wander around forever to find it. This is called Bats and Booze. Now, they released this as a mystery stitch along, which, you know, I can't do. But I thought it was really interesting. So, you can go and get part 4, and part 4 will have all of the parts. Parts 1, 2, and 3 are still available on the website. So if you wanted to do it in the order that the parts were being released, you can do that as well. So all 4 parts are there. I'm probably only going to link you to part 4, but it will probably sort of also recommended for you below that will have the other parts. Or you can always put in the search bar on Fat Quarter Shop, Bats and Booze SAL, S-A-L, and you should see it. Just don't get confused because there's also a Bats and Booze quilt stitch along that ends up with the same design. Now, there's also a hashtag for this particular stitch along, and I will put the hashtag in the notes below. Don't quote me, because I think it's hashtag bats and booze SAL, all one word or all together. But I for sure will put it below the link to the Fat Quarter Shop, because what you do with this is on Instagram, you can follow the hashtag. And so as people are stitching this and changing things up, you get to see all of those things. You get to see what people are doing. You get to see what people are changing, whether they're changing colors or fabrics or design elements or whatever. Again, you know I love a good let's see what everybody's doing with it. And again, not good with the mystery. I now know what it looks like at the end, but I've also been able to watch what other people have been doing. So I took this picture off of Instagram and forgot to write down the lady's name. So this is not me. I stole it off of Instagram. But this is what somebody else did with it, and I love this version. Now, I'm not sure, so she changed the ghosts. I'm not sure I particularly love these particular ghosts. But the part that I love is that she changed it, so she added the purple and the orange into this outer border. Love that. She put purple in for the bats. That I'm going to have to debate. I think I like the black bats better, or black and gray is what they've got. She alternated the colors of her pumpkins. So instead of just having one consistent color all the way around, she's used two. I think I'm just going to use a variegated, but we'll check back later. And I think she made these points coming in from the outer border purple, which is not the called for color, because there's no purple in the original one. And what's really hard to see here, so on the original, all of this outer area is done in white. But she has alternated sort of, if you look at them as squares, she's alternated orange and purple as the dots in the squares. So I saw this and went, oh, I love that. Finicky and somewhat annoying, but I love how this looks. So I of course have saved this down into the folder called Bats and Booze. So I've of course downloaded all of the charts. They're in a folder called Bats and Booze SAL. I've also downloaded a picture of this to remind myself, not that I think that I will necessarily forget, but to remind myself that there are some of this that I'm going to be adding to mine when I start to stitch that. Not this year, not next year, that's not the point. It's there and I have thoughts and all those things ready to go. Okay, so next up we're going to talk about the picture that will be the screen grab for this week. So we're still not at the topic, but this is what the screen grab is of. Now, I of course positioned everything, forgetting to haul this out and take a practice. Oh, that's not bad. It's holding up not bad. I was worried there's going to be a lot of glare and things like that on it. Oh yeah, there we go. Okay. There we go. Okay, we'll cut out some of the matting. But we're going to hold it on this angle just to keep the glare off of it. So it does have glass on it. So there's a little bit of, you can see a little bit going on, but it's not too bad. So this is a recent piece that has come into my home, and this is a treasured possession. So if any of you have been watching for a while, you know that there have been a couple of deaths in my family over the past couple of years. And so it has a longer story than that. Sorry, it's a long story. So this is a piece of canvas work that my maternal grandmother stitched. And when she passed away, so my maternal grandmother has 3 daughters, one of which is my mother. And And, you know, so when she passed away, the three sisters got together and, you know, divided up some stuff and all that kind of stuff. And this stayed with one of my aunts. And my answer to everything is like, on those kinds of things, hey, you are the daughters, you get first pick, you choose what you want, period, end of story. And so one of my aunts got this. Now, my other two aunts, those are the two who have both passed away over the past couple of years. And so we're getting much more experienced about dealing with people's stuff, shall we say, the good, the bad, and the otherwise. But we have gotten to that stage of working through the estate for the aunt that had this, and this is coming to me. Again, so part of it has to do with the fact, I think, that there are no other needle workers in my family. I am the last of the needle workers. I'm the last one who stitches. I do have a relative who knits, which, you know, my grandmother, my mother, one of my aunts did as well. I don't. So we seem to have become uniskill capable. One of them knits. I cross stitch, and the other one, it doesn't really do craft projects, which, hey, everybody has their thing. Anyway, so again, as we're working through it, so this has come to me, and again, so very treasured because this was done by my grandmother. Again, it works quite well in my house because it's blue. I'm not sure I would have necessarily chosen this pink for the windows. I think it looks a little lavendery, but it is very definitely pink. But my answer is I don't care. I don't care. My grandmother stitched this and I treasure this. So I've already picked the spot on the wall where this is going to go, and it's going to get hung up this week. So I picked it up for my parents yesterday. And I was like, what day are we on? This is Sunday. I picked it up for my parents yesterday, and it's going to be hung up this week for sure, period, full stop, no question. Anyway, so just wanted to show this off. This is my grandmother's work, canvas work. Yeah, anyway, so new to me, and being hung up in my house this week, not stitched by me. Anyway, so I'm just gonna put this, yeah, there's a reason why I did it this way originally. Okay, back into the safety zone that goes. All right, and with that, we're heading into the topic now. Now, if any of you have watched me for some time, you will be very surprised at this topic, because the topic is I'm joining a SAL, aka a stitch-along. And we all know I am terrible at stitch-alongs. I'm worst of all at mystery stitch-alongs because I can't do them because they're a mystery. Second of all, I'm not good about following what other people want to do in the time frames that they've set. So I fail at those. I'm okay when the SALs are a start along, but even then I don't do well, right? All the Blackbird weekend stitch alongs where it's like pick any Blackbird design and stitch it on the first weekend of every month. I really like the concept. If you've been watching me for any length of time, you will know exactly how many Blackbird pieces I've been stitching on since they started doing it. Goose egg, big zero, none. Love the concept, not participating. I love lots of the concepts. I'm not good about participating, which is why this one is a little bit of a shocker even to me. So here comes the story. So I was watching Stitchin' Mommy this week, and she was doing her regular stuff, and she was talking about a Facebook group that she is not a part of, but she heard about one of the challenges that said Facebook group put out to their members. I don't even know the name of the Facebook group, and as far as I'm concerned, I don't really care because I don't do well with challenge. If I can't do a SAL, I can't do a challenge group. Anyway, But she heard about this challenge that was put out in the group, and she heard about it, you know, after it'd been going for a while, so she didn't really want to do it at that point in time. But she's like, she is thinking she wants to do it for 2022. She explained very explicitly what she's planning on doing. So she explained the challenge, she explained what she's planning on doing, and then in her video she said, so does anybody want to sell this with me? And I was like, me, I want to sell that. I want to do that too. I know. So I think there are a few others that have also raised their hands and said they want to do this as well. So let me explain to you the concept. So it's an alphabet. So it's in the Facebook group where it started, it was an alphabet challenge. So there are 26 letters in the alphabet, and the challenge is to work on an alphabet piece over the course of a year. And if all you need to do is accomplish one letter every 2 weeks, and by the end of the year, you will have a completed project. Now, first of all, I went, brilliant. How have I not thought of this on my own? Of course, like one letter every 2 weeks, that to me, and again, this has to do with the types of patterns that I work on. I have several alphabet ones. So this could continue on past this. So 2022, this is going into the 2022 plan. It's an addition. It could carry on through the 5-year plan because I'm like going, it makes something seem so achievable, right? One letter every 2 weeks, and you will have a finished project by the end of the year. Now, if you're going for speed, that's going to drive you nuts, but you don't have to, you can do one every day if you want, whatever. But I was like, that could add something to my plans, but still be achievable. And then, so then it was also aided and abetted. Yeah, I already have it in a project bag. So then she showed what she was thinking of doing for her version of this. Outside of the Facebook group, all that kind of stuff. And I went, this is what threw it over the edge. So this is a series of charts. So I just want to be very clear. This is not one chart. This is a series of 9 charts by the drawn thread. And it's called Sampler of Stitches. So I'm going to hold up a picture of all of the pieces together, so you can see what this looks like. Now, at the end of the day, when you put all 9 of these together, the stitch count is 180 across by 210 tall when you put all of them together. And included as part of the patterns, they put, as you put all of the different pieces together, they have a master chart that sort of shows you the placement and how many stitches to leave in between and all that kind of stuff. But again, so when you look at this, according to the stitch along, all I need to do in the first, like in a 2-week period, let's get even more specific, is get that stitched. Oh my goodness, doesn't that seem doable? And now technically the math doesn't quite work out for this one. You need to work a little ahead a bit if you really wanted to get it finished, because now again, so it came out in 9 parts. Each part covers 3 letters of the alphabet. 9 times 3 is 27. So what's the 27th one? It's this part down here, which is where you put your initials in the year. But again, wouldn't it be fun to finish it in the year and put, anyway. We hit all my buttons, and I went, I think, right as soon as she said it, I went, it puts this series of charts into the land of totally achievable manageable, not overwhelming, not like 222 starts in a year while working on other things, right? It's in addition to the 5-year plan. It's in addition to the 2022 year specific plan, but I think it's achievable. Now, as I said, it's already in a project bag. So the other part that factors into this is, well, I had all the charts already, right? Makes it simpler, right? Can I get the charts? Yep. So I will say that this is an older series. So your LNSs may not necessarily have this in stock sitting on the shelf. I can't speak for your LNS because I haven't paid attention. I certainly know that my LNSs do not. It's like I only checked one that I was in. I don't think, anyway, I don't know. That's the real answer. I'm actually just going to stop and see. So the copyright is 2006. So this is 15 years old. But I did go on to Hoffman, which is one of the distributors. No, I didn't go on to Hoffman. Hoffman does not distribute this. I went on to Witchelt.com. And they still have this series listed. I also went on to the Drawn Thread, their page as well. And it still shows it as active and all that kind of stuff. So as far as I can tell, all of these charts are still readily available. So you should be able to go to your LNS and just, if you are interested at all, whether you want to participate in the SAL or you just find the charts interesting by the time we get to the end of this topic, these charts should be, your LNS should be able to get these. Anyway. So, it's called Sampler of Stitches for a reason. Because every one of these blocks, so it's really a sampler of specialty stitches. Again, yeah, I'm adjusting again. Here we go. So for A, so there's cross stitching and regular stuff like that, generally used in your main letters. But what you find when you go beside your block is that they're using a variety of specialty stitches. So, for example, for the letter A, you will be doing Algerian eyelets, the arrowhead stitch, alternating double back stitch, antique stitch. That's it for A. Just those four. For B, back stitch, basket stitch, Bosnia stitch, broad diagonal cross stitch, burden stitch, and the buttonhole stitch. And for C, you will be using the cloud filling stitch, crow's foot stitch, cushion stitch, couched filling stitch, crossed gobelin stitch, cup stitch, and chain stitch. Now, if you're going like, I can't possibly do any of that, I don't know anything really past cross stitch. Again, this is a series where there is a stitch diagram for every single one of those stitches that I have just named off, there is a unique stitch diagram included as part of your chart. So this is a multi-page chart. It's got stitch diagrams for everything. Every stitch that they're referencing, they have a stitch diagram. They're numbered like we like them. I call it, if you can paint by number, you can specialty stitch by number as well. If you can play connect the dots, you can do specialty stitches. So, but again, all you have to accomplish is that over the course of 2 weeks. I keep going like, doesn't that look manageable? Right? Even if all you did on week 1 is got the block these are the Algerian eyelets, by the way, and part of this, and did like, I think it is totally achievable. And I've gone even further. I have decided that I am going to devote all of the Sundays in 2022 to my alphabet challenge stitch along. I have said to Stitch and Mommy, we just need to come up with a hashtag. We need to come up with a hashtag, because then we can all post to the hashtag our progress. Even if you don't want to stitch it and have no interest in it, and you just want to see what people are doing, then if we came up with a hashtag, you could follow the hashtag. So I have said to the Stitch and Mommy, all we need is a hashtag. I don't know if she's come up with one yet. And if any of you have a brilliant suggestion for a hashtag for me, please put it in the notes in the comment section down below, because I'm not good at coming up with those. So, addition to the plan, so I have all the charts. I have to decide on fabric, and I have to decide on threads. So I will tell you that this has been charted for needlepoint ink silk. I want to say it's like 10 or 11 colors. Like, there are some different colors as you go through the letters. I didn't bring down my spreadsheet. Don't worry, I'll have it all figured out by the time it gets going. It's charted for needlepoint ink silk or soie d'Alger from Auvers-Soie. But I know even from when I picked up this series from my LNS at that particular time, which isn't in business any longer, I don't like those color palettes. The concept is great. I don't know what that was. Oop, looks like the light bulb's gonna go out. I like the concept, I just don't like the colors chosen. So the letters, and we're going to talk about this a little bit more as well. So the letters are consistently done in a combination of a light blue and a dark blue. So that works for me, just not necessarily the ones that they've chosen. They use a series of 3 mauves, a dark one, and then what they call a light one, and then a very light. And again, so I've devoted a fair amount of time this week to looking at this one. So I've decided to pitch in and do this, because now I have to make some decisions on colors. And so I like the dark one. The next 2 up, so I'm going to do it in soie d'Alger from Auvers-Soie. I've spent some time going through the color options, and that's where I'm going. I'm going to be doing this in soie d'Alger. I like the dark one, but the next 2 up that they've chosen from the soie d'Alger, the specific ones that they've chosen from soie d'Alger, I don't like those either. So the darkest one is staying the same, but I'm going to modify the next 2. This isn't a good one to show. There's 2 greens. Probably this is the dark green and this is the light green up here. There's 2 greens. They are an olive green, which of course is too yellow for me. So I'm going to be changing the greens. They're still going to be green. They're just going to be more of a blue green as opposed to an olive green. So I'm changing the palette. At this point in time, based on what I've looked at, the only color that I think that I am keeping from the original set that they've put in here is the darkest mauve, which is Soie d'Alger 4636. As I check and make sure I'm not lying. Yeah, 4636. So I'm keeping the 4636. I'm changing all of the other colors. The colors, again, as I said, the colors will be the same. So if it calls for 2 blues, it's going to be replaced by 2 blues, just different ones. If it calls for 2 greens, it's going to be replaced by 2 different greens. I have not come up with my final color palette. But I will show you. I will show you that when I'm done, before we hit the beginning of the year. And I'm happy to share my colors with anybody if anybody cares. Anyway, so I'm working on that. The called for linen that they put on the chart is for 30 count custard cream from Legacy Linens. That's really quite yellow, so you know I'm not doing that. Anyway, so I have to come up with so I've narrowed down my fabric choice to 2, and I'm working on my color palette. Don't have final decisions, I'm working on it. But I just want to haul out a couple of these charts to show you one thing. It's a very specific one I wanted for this one. And I have to put the bags in different areas because there are some beads and some charms that come as part of the chart. And I just want to keep them, you know, so I don't get them mixed up. I know you'd think it would be obvious that, you know, anyway, but okay. So this is the chart for ABC. This is the chart for DEF. And this is the chart for MNO. Now, if I have any skills at all, which let's not count on that occurring. So here are the physical charts. Let's see if I can't. Yeah, there. And this is why you can never trust, why you shouldn't necessarily rely, it's not trust, why you shouldn't necessarily rely on what you see on the front of the chart. As I said, all of those letter blocks, the A, B, C, D, all of those are done with the same 2 colors. They are charted always to be stitched in the combination of the dark blue and the light blue. But look at how, look at how different those look. Like you would swear that the D was done in a gray, which it isn't. There's no gray in the color palette at all. Actually, but the D will show you 2 greens. Anyway, so just a note, don't necessarily rely on the charts or what's shown on the cover of the charts, which is why Instagram and Flosstube and Facebook are all terrible enablers, because people are showing you what these things look like really stitched. And as I said, even for me this week I've gone, how have I not paid attention to this chart or that chart? And again, one of them I looked at the chart cover online and went, okay, well, I can see why if I saw this chart cover I didn't pay any attention to it. But now that I've seen what somebody else is doing with it, that changes my opinion. So I'm not done yet. There's more to this story. Actually, I'm going like, no, they have to go back in the bags now, or there's going to be a problem. I don't have, my skills aren't that great that I can figure these things out later. I don't know. That one, and this is DEF. Yes, and see, this is, I've lost my dragonfly charm already, but it's got to be here somewhere. See, this is why we have to solve these problems right away. All right. See, I felt I saw something slip off. Anyway, we'll solve that problem because it's got to be right here. You all watched it. And I'm sorry about the light that's apparently going to die. It's the overhead light. Anyway, here's the next part of that story. So this week, I was spending a little time with Jeanette Douglas. Yes, I'm totally name dropping. I spent a little bit of time with Jeanette Douglas. Okay, I'm also going to say, like, I don't spend a regular I don't regularly see Jeanette Douglas, but I did spend a little bit of time with Jeanette this week. And it was funny. So this topic came up. So I was seeing her later in the week where I'd made this momentous decision, and, you know, I was telling her about all these things and, you know, add another project into the schedule, and it was totally going to be achievable and all sorts of great things. And she looked at me and she said, "Oh, I have that." I was like, "Oh," and so we were in her work area, because, you know, that's where you always end up, because you have to look at stuff, right? Anyway, so we're in the work area where we filmed the Flosstube video, and so I'm looking around the walls, going, I don't see it. And she's like, she hasn't finished it. So she actually went and she pulled it out. So kudos to Jeanette. She knew where it was. There's no way I would have been able to pick out things from my stash that fast. So yay, Jeanette. Great organizational skills, something I should aspire to. And so she hauled hers out. And so we looked at it together, which was great fun. And again, so she hauled it out and she put it out on the table, and we're talking about it, and we're talking about what she did and my plans are. And it was really great. So one, unbeknownst to Jeanette, and I certainly didn't say anything, but I looked at hers and went, whew, look at that. So if I have any questions about the stitches, not only is she on her own specialty stitch guru, she's worked on this design. So I've already seen how far she's gotten on hers. I went, if I have any problems, I know who to call. Anyway, she doesn't know this. You know, so we were talking about it, and I said, I'm changing the colors. And I laughed in a totally Jeanette way. She looked at me, she's like, oh, I wish I had changed my colors too. So she's using the called for colors. I'm pretty sure she's doing them in the Soie d'Alger. But I just laughed. She's like, oh, I wish I had changed my colors too. So again, that's from a designer herself, where she's like, you know, it's okay. So you could look at this color palette and you go, I want my letters to be, pick whatever color pick some other color you want. Who knows, right? Don't be afraid to change the palette to what you prefer. But why it's taken me I've spent so much time this week looking at this, is because I know that I'm changing the palette, and I had to look at all 9 charts individually and go, where is this color being used, right? It's fine to look at A, B, C and go, it's being used for this, that, and this other thing. But as you go through the rest of them, right? So I wanted, so let's take the greens. The blues are pretty easy because you go, they're generally being used for the letters. Fine. That's not a problem. The greens, where exactly is the green being used? How is it being combined? What else is it being combined with? So there's a section in one of the charts where one of the greens and the gold are going together, right? So it's things like that where, you know, as I'm working on developing my color palette for this particular design, where I have to be cognizant of how it's going to be used, so that I can look at it and go, okay, when I put those 2 things together, that will make sense. Now, generally, I try to do that when I put things down, so I go, they make sense to me. But it's how exactly are they being used. And in some of the cases, right, you've got specialty stitches where you have to use color A as the base stitch, and then color B is being stitched something else on top of it. So again, I've had to look through all 9 charts and look at where these colors are being used, so that I can sort of subconsciously at this point now be aware of what those combinations could look like, so that as I'm putting my palette together and I'm playing with colors, that I can evaluate. Then of course, anyway, so that's the discussion about the color palette. So I really enjoyed that Jeanette looked at me. She said, oh, I wish I had changed my color palette too. Now, I will also tell you, if Jeanette Douglas were to change the color palette, she probably wouldn't change it to the same palette that I would use, right? So that dark mauve, if you don't like mauve, you change it to red. Anyway, whatever. So Jeanette's not working on it, and she has no plans to work on it. But I can probably fairly confidently say to you that if Jeanette Douglas were to change the color palette and I were to change the color palette, they're not going to be the same. Because we wait till you hear the next bit. Anyway, so we were talking about things. So that's the color palette, and then we were talking about fabric, and I said, well, I'm also planning on changing the fabric because custard cream. We all know that custard cream is too yellow. Now, she didn't do it on custard cream either. She was doing it on a 32 count. But I said, like, yours looks fairly similar to what custard cream should look like, and we all know that that isn't going to work for me. And she looked at me. I said, well, so I'm planning on stitching it either on 32 count Silvery Moon Lugana or the infamous Pearl Gray Lugana. So it's going to be 32 count. One of those two, I'm heading to gray. And she looked at me and she went, yes, right? Because you always go gray, whereas I go brown. And I went, yep. That's exactly it. I always tend to gray, and she goes more brown. Again, so, like, there's a part of me that really wishes I might take a run at it. I'm 100% certain that I will not be able to convince her to do it, but there's a part of me that goes like, I would love to convince Jeanette Douglas to do this with me and have her change the color palette and have her change the fabric. Wouldn't that make for a great I should say that to her. Wouldn't that make for a great Flosstube? We could both work on it, and she could change her palette and I could change my palette, and we'd both do it on different fabrics because they would look very different at the end. And I love that when people change colors and do things differently. We'd follow again, it's a Judy Roy and follow the pattern, right? I will, where it says to do an Algerian eyelet, I'm going to do an Algerian eyelet, and I'm going to do all those things, but because I've changed the palette and I've changed the fabric, it's going to look different, and hers would look different again. Might have to send her an email. No, that's not very convincing. Okay, the next time I have a chance to talk to Jeanette, I'll see if I'm going to take a run at it. Again, I don't know that I'm going to be very successful, but I think I am going to take a run at that going, come on, Jeanette, change the palette. Do it with me. Anyway, she probably won't, and it's totally fine. Anyway, the other thing she said about fabric, once we sorted out that even though she felt I should go brown, I was going to go gray. Because I'm going to go gray, because I'm not going to do it on a more brown fabric. Here's the other interesting thing she said to me. I wish I had done it on a darker fabric. And I instantly went, oh, why is that? Why, like, that's, so to me, that was a very interesting comment because she's done quite a bit of it already. And I said, why is that? And she said, for her, it would be the contrast. Like, even if she had stuck with the same colors that she had used, if she had used a darker fabric for that, the contrast, it would have showed up better and she would have liked it better and all those things. So I immediately went, ooh, Jeanette Douglas thinks she should have done it on a darker fabric. Now, I've already said I've got two blues in mind. I've got Silvery Moon and I've got Pearl Gray. Pearl Gray is the darker of the two. So, now, still working on my color palette. It might end up being Pearl Gray because Jeanette Douglas said so, except she didn't really say that. So I don't want to put words into her mouth. She didn't exactly say that. But between those two, because the Pearl Gray is the darker one, I'm already sitting here without having finalized my color palette saying, because I have Jeanette's voice now in my head saying, I wish I had done it on a darker fabric. So, and to be perfectly honest, even when I look at the two, I have Jeanette's voice in my head going, I wish I had done it on a darker fabric. I wish I had done it on a darker fabric. It's probably going to end up being Pearl Gray because Jeanette Douglas. Anyway, not because Jeanette Douglas said, but because of Jeanette Douglas. Anyway, so it was a fascinating conversation. I'm so glad. One, I'm so glad I brought it up with her. I'm so glad that we had this big conversation about it. I'm so glad she showed me hers. Anyway, it was a fantastic discussion. I loved it. I loved it. I loved it. I loved it. It was fantastic. Stay tuned for final decisions on that one. But I can tell you that I am firmly putting this into the plans for 2022. It'll be fun for it'll be fun for Flosstube, right? It'll be interesting to talk about the stitches, which ones I enjoyed, which ones I didn't enjoy. Well, I've been doing some research about this. I've been checking about things online, and it was interesting. I saw somebody's blog where they were working on it and they'd finished it, and they said some parts they really enjoyed, some parts they didn't. But that's to be expected. That happens. Catherine Agnes, which I showed a long time ago, I'll haul it out in 2022 when we're doing something else. I did some Boolean stitches on there. I can't say that I love doing them. They're okay. I don't necessarily love doing them. They're a little bit finicky. You have to make sure you're using the right needle. I can't say that. I think they're a really great surface embroidery stitch. I think it's great for that. It's not a stitch I particularly love, whatever. And I'm expecting that same thing to occur as I work my way through the specialty stitches in this series of charts. Some of them I'm going to enjoy. Some of them I will have done before and will go, that's no problem, I've already done that one. Some of them will be absolutely brand new to me. We'll see how I like them. I think it's going to be great. I'm really looking forward to the SAL. I'm really looking forward to participating. I'm looking forward to keeping up with it because I think it's totally achievable. So again, my plan is I'm going to start this on January the 1st because Stitchin' Mommy wants to do it as her New Year, New Start. So I will be stitching on this for a little bit on January 1st. It's not my plan for my official New Year, New Start, but New Year, New Starts is also totally acceptable. But my plan is to work on it every Sunday. We'll see how I do. So the other thing that I found somewhere, now I haven't counted this up for myself, is, and it wasn't on the Drawn Thread web page, so who knows if it's accurate or not. But it said that they're included in this series of 9 charts. There are 144 different specialty stitches, or not necessarily specialty, 144 different types of stitches that are incorporated into this series of charts. I think it's going to be great. I'm really looking forward to it. I'm very excited about it. I'm working on it. So again, this is what all 9 parts together are going to look like. So 9 distinct charts. This is from the Drawn Thread. It's the series sampler of stitches. I'm very excited about this. Very, very excited about this. Okay, and I'm already going to tell you right now because you'll forget by the time it comes up. This block down, this series right here, I already have, I'm changing something down there. I'm so faithfully going to follow the pattern as faithfully as I follow any other pattern. Now, I will say the other thing that Jeanette made a comment on about fabric is so this is her. I didn't even ask if I could tell you this story. I'll have to confess later. So she was working it on a 32 count linen, and she wished that she did it on a higher count linen. Now, first of all, it's Jeanette, and Jeanette's happy spot is 40 count. So the only cautionary note I will say about that is, so I will definitely say that this is not a series of charts that will work on Aida. You do need to do it over 2 threads to work these specialty stitches. So I would say 28 count and higher is the thread count that you need to do. So if you are only Aida stitcher, I'm really sorry. This is not going to be a series that's going to work for you to stitch on Aida, unless you want to do it on Aida over 2, but that makes it 7 count, and then your fibers would have to change, and it would make it very complicated. It would make it very complicated and very large. But the interesting thing that I said to Jeanette is, you know, well, as you work your way up, so it's charted, it was stitched on 30 count. I'm planning on doing it on 32. I've seen Jeanette's done on 32, and I go, it's all going to be fine. But knowing that she likes to work on higher counts and she wishes that she'd done it on started it on a higher count. I will say, so this, let's throw it behind here. Ugh. So this is, like, they do come with some charms, some small charms, and there are ones that are smaller than this. They're of varying sizes. So I would say this to you, as I did to Jeanette, just be mindful, because I don't, just look at sort of what you're, like there's the one that I'm particularly think of is there was a key, I think is the biggest one, and there's an umbrella, which I think is the smallest one. I mean, you just have to do a little bit of checking on where those were fitting into, that if you were changing the count. So I'm not worried about 28. As you go down, they will fit. Again, the difference between 30 and 32 is not big enough that as you know, that change is not going to make the charms or the beads in here not work. You know, who knows where Jeanette goes with her higher count. Sorry, I have to put this back in the bag or I'm going to lose it. We all know Jeanette can stitch up to weird things like, you know, 53, 63, and you know, who knows what she would be thinking. So all I said to her is like, just don't forget that there are beads and pearls and charms that come along as part of your chart. So if you're wending your way up towards a higher count, just anyway, evaluate for yourself how comfortable you are with that. I've moved it from 30 to 32 count. I am utterly confident that those will fit no problem when I stitch it. The other thing I want to talk about is it is charted for silks. And I am going to be using the silks. Like I said, I'm converting the palette, but I'm still going to be staying in the silks. On the Drawn Thread website, there is, they have their own conversion chart for silks that they've used in their patterns to DMC. That is available on their website. I will say, again, because I spent a lot of time this week reading the charts and looking at the charts and where things are being used and some of the specialty stitches and all that kind of stuff, that I am firmly using silks, and here's why. There's parts of the specialty stitches where you're using only one strand, and one strand of silk is a little fatter than one strand of DMC. It's not that you can't do it with DMC, it may just give you a different look. And I would be hesitant to say, well, just, you know, change it from one strand to 2 strands of DMC, because the way the different layers of the specialty stitch work together is very specific. Now, again, it's not to say that you can't. I've made the personal choice that I'm changing enough stuff as it is that I'm not going to try to fuss that either. So I am going to be doing it in Soie d'Alger from Auvers Soie in my own colors. Check back later. But that's the reasoning behind that decision, is just to, you know, because I always do like more coverage. I like a full coverage, and certainly, you know, as you've seen, as I've worked on the Canadian Patriotic Sampler by Jeanette Douglas, where there are certain aspects in there where I did adjust, where she used one strand of silk because she was doing it on 36 count, which it gave better coverage. I had changed it down to 32 count, and to make it provide the level of coverage that I like, I changed it to 2 strands. So they worked the model on 30 count, which means as I go from 30 up to 32, I'm feeling very good about the level of coverage that I'm going to achieve on 32 count by using the Soie d'Alger. I'm also really confident that I'm gonna like how it looks at the end of the day because I've seen Jeanette's. So I know what it looks like on 32 count because that's what she was working on, and I went, you're gonna be fine. It's all gonna work out for you, Judy. It's gonna be fine. 32 count is gonna work out for you, no problem. So that's again another really wonderful benefit of having this totally unexpected discussion with Jeanette this week on the Drawn Thread Sampler stitches. It was great. Loved it, loved it, loved it, loved it. Thank you, Jeanette. It was so great. I'll have to talk to her again and see if I can't. I know I keep going. It's like there's a 99.9% chance she's not going to do it, but I feel like I should go change the colors, Jeanette. Change the colors. Change the fabric. Do it with me. Come on, let's do a Flosstube. It'll only be 1 episode. Anyway, it would only ever be 1 episode. But anyway, never mind that. All right. So that is my update for this week. The Sampler of Stitches SAL has me uberly excited. I can't wait. I'm really looking forward to it. Really, really, really looking forward to it. I'm hoping that I can stay on track with this. Now again, check back in January, because it'll only, we'll know by the end of January how I'm doing, right? There's four Sundays in January. By the end of January, we'll know how I'm doing, whether I have to work more days or how I'm going to accomplish this. But like I say, I keep looking at this and going, no, so this block is, so this entire area is I want to say it's 70 across and 60 up. It looks a little skewed. You'd think it'd be the other way, but anyway. I know that each of these charts is 70 stitches by 60 stitches. And again, that's where I go like, it's got to be up, because in my head I go, all I have to do is 20 stitches up and across. And again, it's not full coverage. It's not thousands of stitches. It's this plus, like I go, come on, people. Surely I can get each one of those letters done in a 2-week time span, right? I can do this. I totally think it's achievable, even for me. I've put it in the plans for 2022. It's a new addition to the 22 plan. Again, plans, it's just a plan. It's not a rule, right? So I'm changing the plan again. I've added something. I can't wait. I'm really looking forward to it. I can't wait to see what my final decision is on the colors I'm choosing and the fabric that I'm doing it on. Stay tuned for that, because as soon as I make a final decision, I will show it here. So you'll get to see that. But it's the big new thing this week. I'm joining a SAL. That's all there is to it. And with that is I'm doing that usual end of things like, have I covered everything that I've got pieces of paper out for? And the answer is yes. And so with that, that's all I have for this week. If you're interested in joining the SAL, come on, join in. If you're not interested in doing this particular one, my personal answer is still like, pick up the challenge, do an alphabet, pick something that has an alphabet, even if it's not this one, and do it along with us. Tell me what you're working on. I think it's great. I don't know the Stitchin' Mommy. I don't know if it's going to go in the hashtag, but my answer is pick an alphabet and do it with me, right? Do it with me, right? You can pick any chart out there that has an alphabet on it, right? You could even do Halloween sampler or a Christmas sampler, right? This has an alphabet. Same thing, right? You could pick this up and go if all you had to accomplish was abracadabra in week 1, right? Broom, week 2, right? It doesn't have to be all sampler stitches, right? Just think about the alphabet challenge and see if you have something in your stash or an alphabet chart that you've been wanting to stitch. And now there are ones, I've seen one, it's a heaven and earth design, it's full coverage, it's an alphabet thing, and I just go like, I don't think that is achievable in a 2-week period. It certainly is not achievable for me in a 2-week period. Maybe there are people out there where it's totally achievable in a 2-week period, and more power to them. But pick a chart that appeals to you, that you think you can get 1 letter done, and join in the fun. It doesn't have to be official. Join in the fun. Pick an alphabet chart. Do 1 letter a week. I'm really looking forward to it. I think you can probably tell that. Anyway, with that, that's all I have for you. I hope everybody's had a good week. I hope you are staying safe. I hope you are staying healthy. And I hope that you are finding some time to stitch. And I look forward to seeing you next week. As always, don't forget to like and subscribe and leave any comments, questions, or topics that you would like me to address in the comment section down below. And I look forward to seeing you next week. Take care, guys.